apropos to talking about burnt bridges that you leave behind in an industry like Hollywood, people who have worked with Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds in the past are now coming out of the woodwork to speak out about their unprofessional behavior on the sets of both of their own projects. Now, a former extra on Gossip Girl who is now a TV chef and like a YouTuber influencer type person named Rosella Rago spoke on TikTok about her terrible experiences working with Blake Lively, claiming that she's basically an absolute nightmare to work with. She said, "I was a stand-in on movies and TV shows for 15 years, and I worked on Gossip Girl on and off for all 6 seasons. And I can attest that Blake Lively is horrendous. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. She was a Nepo baby, and when she was 19, the whole world was blowing smoke up her ass. It's really hard to keep your head when that happens. She thinks that she has the right to behave exactly as she wants. And how dare we make a fuss? She couldn't handle that people didn't like her, and she was looking like an a-hole." So according to her posts, Blake Lively would even burp and fart in the middle of set between takes and, quote, act like we were lucky to be smelling her farts.
Okay, I'm starting to think that we're getting off into the territory of clout chasing now.
You think she's just making that shit up?
I would have maybe been more likely to believe it before I found out that she was like a social media personality that benefits directly from this stuff being in the headlines.
But that is the actual quote. Blake Lively would burp and fart in the middle of set and act like we were lucky to be smelling her farts.
Just sounds like somebody holding a grudge.
I don't know. I mean, maybe she's just jealous that Blake Lively ended up having a much bigger career than her, and she didn't make it, so to speak. She was very unpleasant to work with. I just don't know how else to say it. She also claims that Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, would bow down at her feet when they began dating after her brief fling with Leonardo DiCaprio.
So what the hell am I supposed to
back
believe?
In 2011.
Is he deeply controlling, or is he a weird simp who bows down at the feet of a girl he's been seeing for a couple of months? Which is it?
We're hearing a lot of different narratives about who they both are, but especially about Ryan Reynolds. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, we were talking about the theory that Ryan Reynolds is the one who's behind the Me Too lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, and that he's been dragging Blake Lively along for the ride, and that she never wanted any of this, but it's Ryan Reynolds' way of humiliating her for cheating on him emotionally.
See, that is a very different...
That's a much more interesting story, to be honest, than that he's a desperate, pathetic wife guy. Mm-hmm. But if we're to believe what she's saying, allegedly, Ryan Reynolds would actually just bow at Blake Lively's feet, like he was just at her beck and call.
It's for lack of a better term, does it pass the smell test? It seems a bit over the top, and usually when things start to feel like... I mean, this kind of comes up a lot when we get into a lot of the Me Too cases, where at a certain point somebody starts to sound like a supervillain. Mm-hmm.
And it's a movie I would love to watch.
Yeah, like
not gonna lie.
Yeah.
She's used to being adored, and when she's not, shit gets real, and Justin Baldoni has found out how real it gets.
See, he needed some insiders in Hollywood to be like, "Hey, bro, anybody but her."
While filming Gossip Girl,
they're like, dude, Sydney Sweeney just finished Anyone But You. Get Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah. They also claim Blake would allegedly make demands of the extras through a director who would tell them to be quiet or tell them not to move
so she was
on
the person,
her behalf.
She would be looking directly at the extra, but turn to the director and be like, could you tell them to stop moving? Even though they were right in their eye line?
So on Blake Lively's behalf, this director would demand that the extras on set be quiet and stop moving because she wanted to be in charge of everyone. And, you know, it just sounds like she's the type of person who was raised with an immense amount of notoriety and privilege and now has to force herself to be nice to the normal people. You know, That's not hard to believe at all.
Nope.
You know, okay, the detail about her farting on set, again, I don't know if that passes the smell test, but The rest of it is very easy for me to believe, that she just generally has an attitude that's narcissistic and self-involved, and that she's a control freak. And everyone has known for years that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively have a heavily curated public image, which is being threatened right now. And that's why we move on to claims made about Ryan Reynolds. Now, a clip from an interview with TJ Miller on the Adam Carolla podcast is resurfacing and getting posted on social media again. This is from back in 2022 when people were talking about the announcement of a third Deadpool movie. TJ Miller claimed that Ryan Reynolds was horrifically mean to him on the set of Deadpool, both the first and second movies. He said, as the character of Deadpool, he was horrifically mean to me, but to me, as if I'm Weasel. Ryan was like, you know what's great about you, Weasel? You're not the star, but you do just enough exposition that it's funny, and then we can leave and get back to the real movie.
Well, it is actually true that Weasel had some of the best lines in the original Deadpool, mainly when he's describing how disgusting his face looks without the mask on after he escapes. He's like, you look like your face looks like an avocado fucked an older avocado.
But apparently,
it's very Reddit humor, but it was very good in 2016.
Like, Ryan Reynolds would have just ad-libbed, like he just was doing improv to be mean to TJ Miller for fun.
Yeah.
Like, as the character, it's like, what do you mean? We're just practicing our roles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you
and
can't.
Then makes a very pointed facial expression at him.
What's so crazy about that? I'm just trying to do improv, bro.
Yeah.
This is art. Miller said he kind of listened and thought it was weird before walking away after the director called cut. He also alluded to Ryan Reynolds possibly being insecure for some reason, though he wasn't exactly sure why. He was asked if he would work with Ryan Reynolds again, and he said, no, I would not work with him again. I wish him well because he's so good at Deadpool, but I think it's weird that he hates me. I don't wish him any ill will. I just think he doesn't like me, and I thought it was weird how he expressed that.
I'm almost positive now. This could just be me imagining something, but I'm pretty sure he has since walked that back.
Yes, he
said
actually
that
did.
he would indeed work with him again. That's what happens when you make the third movie and it makes $1 billion.
Well, just days after he gave that interview in 2022, he said that they patched things up because Ryan Reynolds heard about it and emailed him, and they worked it out. You know, they buried the hatchet, as bros do. Women, not so much. It's more complicated with women.
I don't know. Well, yeah, that's different for guys.
Men can kind of just put things behind them.
Mm.
Even if they're not like totally over it.
I mean,
they can at least act like they're over it.
I don't even know if I buy that in Hollywood, because as I said earlier, I said the average Hollywood male is probably more like a woman than most dudes. So,
for sure.
Like, do I actually buy that? No, I buy that most of them have catty behavior. Now, I do believe that a lot of them will set their differences aside to make money. It's kind of like in WWE, Vince McMahon would get into, like, he would have bad relationships with tons of wrestlers who would come and go from the company, but that didn't mean that he would not bring you back, because the door was always open if there was money to be made. Bret Hart can come back because Bret Hart can bring them money.
Sort of like the Oasis tour.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
When you want to make money together, your differences can be put aside. But other people were celebrating that Ryan Reynolds was mean to TJ Miller because they hate TJ Miller.
Yeah, he got Me Too'd, right? I never even I don't even remember what happened with it. I just remember there was like a story at some point that he supposedly... It was a long time ago.
I don't know the details
I don't know
either.
if it's true. I don't know if it's not, but...
But that's not to say Ryan Reynolds doesn't have his own skeletons in the closet,
That
and that's
is true.
what people are finding out now. He's not, in fact, the nicest guy in Hollywood.
I mean, that's what's weird is, so he comes from the era just before social media. What'll be interesting is the moguls of the future in Hollywood will have a vastly different approach than the ones who came from 21st century Hollywood. So if we're talking somebody who came to prominence in the year 2000, I think Van Wilder was like the year 2000, around that time. You know, cell phones are around, but they're not the communication devices that they are now. I don't know what year TMZ was created, but celebrity gossip existed but wasn't what it is now, and the ability for somebody's reputation to be destroyed swiftly wasn't what it is now. So the ones who are going to grow to become the business moguls and the producers of the future will either have to be unbelievably squeaky clean or something,
which is impossible for human beings,
Well, especially since it doesn't take even necessarily something bad happening for your reputation to be moved. All that needs to happen is you get a deal, somebody else doesn't get a deal, and they leak a story that isn't true. If you believe that that's far-fetched, you are wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's like back in the day before social media, you could just treat some intern like trash, and no one would ever listen to their story about it. But
it just wasn't interesting enough for anybody because it was seen as comical. Like, oh, those actors,
right? And you were pointing out earlier off air that there's now this like cottage industry for people to tell their story, whether it's a Me Too allegation or some person that worked with Blake Lively 20 years ago claiming that she burps and farts on set, and then people just they run with it. I'm not going to claim like this is all verified fact. She has no evidence of anything that she said. It's just there is an audience for it now because anyone can just pick up their phone and go to TikTok with their story, their testimony of Blake Lively.
We live in an age now where, even an actor who isn't necessarily working in their field can become famous on social media, which is, that's a good thing, right? A lot of people are, like the average backup dancer can have a flourishing career as on TikTok without having to dance for anybody or put themselves in the same room as Jason Derulo or something like that. So
thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.